integrity. Splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
Splashdown confirmed.
Copy splashdown. Waiting on VLDR.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:07.
Good evening, welcome to Space Oddities. The astronauts are home after an extremely successful mission. The Artemis 2 astronauts splashed down safely into the ocean, as you saw, and that concluded the mission. So basically that concludes our coverage of Artemis, but we're not going to let you get away that easily, because this evening we're going to be asking the simple question: what happens next? What are the plans for the moon going forward? So we're going to be looking into each mission in a bit of depth and telling you what's happening. We hope you're all well, and hope you've all had a fantastic week. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. Of course, the main story is the NASA's Project Artemis, the crew to return people to the moon. But there are a lot of other missions that are going to be heading for the moon, and in particular, they go under the umbrella of the NASA CLPS program. CLPS is CLPS, stands for Commercial Lunar Payload, and we're going to be having a look at that now. Daz has put together a short video to tell you, apart from Artemis, what is coming up in terms of the moon. So let's have a look at this.
NASA's CLPS program. NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program, also known as CLPS, is a significant initiative aimed at advancing lunar exploration and resource utilization. The program, which began in 2019, allows NASA to partner with commercial companies to send robotic landers and rovers to the moon. The CLPS program has achieved the first commercial landing on the moon with the IM-1 mission in 2024, and is set to support large payloads starting after 2025. The program is run by NASA's Science Mission Directorate and aims to integrate, accommodate, transport and operate NASA payloads, including launch vehicles, lunar lander spacecraft, lunar surface systems, Earth re-entry vehicles and associated resources. The program has been instrumental in NASA's Artemis lunar program, which aims to return humans to the Moon and Mars. There have been 4 CLPS missions launched so far. The first was Astrobotics Peregrine Mission 1. The NASA payloads were Laser Retroreflector Array for precise ranging from Earth, Near-Infrared Volatile Spectrometer System, maps water volatiles, Neutron Spectrometer System, which probes hydrogen in regolith, Peregrine Ion Trap Mass Spectrometer, which measured exosphere composition, and Linear Energy Transfer Spectrometer, measured radiation in the environment. Launched on the 8th of January 2024, the planned landing site was Sinus Viscositas, near the Carthusian Domes. The mission was lost. The Peregrine lander separated cleanly from the Vulcan rocket. Then a propellant leak emerged, robbing the lander of the thrust needed to complete its journey. After 6 days in orbit, the spacecraft was redirected into Earth's atmosphere, burning up over the Pacific Ocean on the 18th of January 2024. Next to fly was the Intuitive Machines IM-1 Nova C. It is credited with being the first US soft landing in over 50 years. NASA had 6 CLPS payloads on board: Navigation Doppler LiDAR Precision Landing Tech Demo, Laser Retroreflector Array, Lunar Node 1 Navigation Demonstration, which was autonomous navigation, Radio Frequency Mass Gauge, Cryogenic Propellant Gauging, Stereo Cameras for Lunar Plume Surface Studies, and radio observations of the lunar surface photoelectron sheath, or the radio environment. Launched the 15th of February 2024, upon initial contact with the lunar surface, the lander broke a leg off the hexagonal body and bounced backwards along the line of approach, with the main engine and RC firing to null out vertical and natural velocities. After landing vertically, the lander slowly settled onto the lunar surface with the top solar array pointing in the general direction of the Schomburg crater. One of the rectangular arrays, originally intended to be vertical, was on top and angled 30 degrees with the horizontal, or about 18 degrees with the lunar surface. Intuitive Machines announced that until entering standby mode on February the 29th, 2024, Odysseus had transmitted over 350 megabytes of science and engineering data from all payloads. Odysseus's rough, soft moon landing was the first soft landing of any kind for an American-made spacecraft since Apollo 17, more than 50 years before, and the first by a private company. The third to take flight was the Firefly Blue Ghost Mission 1. The lander carried multiple CLPS instruments, with examples like the Lunar Instrumentation for Subsurface Thermal Exploration with Rapidity Heat Flow Probe, Lunar Contact Infrared Imaging System for thermal imaging, Follow-on Radio Environment Instrument, Next Generation Lunar Retro Reflector, plus additional payloads to study regolith properties, radiation and local environment. Launched 15th of January 2025, Blue Ghost 1 touched down in Mare Crisium on the 2nd of March 2025 at 0834 UTC. It was the first fully successful commercial soft landing. The Blue Ghost Mission 1 was a robotic landing mission by Firefly Aerospace that launched on January the 15th, 2025, and soft landed on the lunar surface on March the 2nd, 2025. Firefly thus became the first commercial company to complete a fully successful soft landing on the Moon. As part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Service program, the mission delivered 10 scientific and technological experiments to advance future human exploration under the Artemis program. About 5 hours after lunar sunset on March the 16th, 2025, the solar power lander's batteries depleted and communications were lost. The mission's end was officially declared at 23:25 UTC. Next in line for launch was the Intuitive Machines IM-2 mission. NASA payloads on board were included the Prime 1 drill and mass spectrometer to test extraction and measurement of subsurface ice, and other navigation technological payloads similar in spirit to IM-1, but focused on in situ resource utilization. Intuitive Machines 2 in Athena was launched on the 27th of February 2025 and was considered a partial failure. The Athena lander fell outside when landing on the 6th of March 2025, but its instruments remained partially functional, albeit with a reduced downlink capacity, for a few hours before power ran out, so the mission was judged a partial failure. On March the 13th, Intuitive Machines shared that, like on the IM...
Okay, we seem to have a technical problem with the video there. The audio keeps dropping out. We will try and fix that and come back to it later. So apologies for that, but a slight technical glitch we seem to be having there. Okay, so we will move on. Before we go into Artemis 3, 4, and 5, we are going to take a break for the news, I think, and then we'll tell you all about the upcoming Artemis missions and exactly what's going to be achieved, or at least hope to achieve. So we'll just take a break for the news, and we'll try and sort the problem out with the NASA clips video. Do bear with us. So let's just get this up, and we will have a look at the news for this week. So let's have a look and see what's going on. And just a few news items this week. The first is that, very excitingly, Japan is going to try and do a sample return mission from a comet. So the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA, are studying this ambitious mission. The aim is to return truly pristine material from the early solar system, this time not from an asteroid, but from a comet. Now, this is only a proposed mission at this stage. Nothing is written in stone. And it's going to be called the Next Generation Small Body Return, NGSR, rather catchily. And it's going to target a comet called 289P Blancpain. It's a tiny comet, but it's unusually quiet. So that means it's probably going to be safer for spacecraft to approach it closely rather than more active comets. Now, with asteroids, the material on asteroids has been subject to space weather. Radiation from the sun also impacts heating. So the surfaces of asteroids are not original surfaces, but comets are, because they spend a long time away from the sun, vast distances from the sun. So their material is far more likely to be pristine, dating from the creation of the solar system. The Japanese have got a really ambitious goal with this one. They want to dig beneath the surface of the comet. They're going to, like the NASA DART mission, use an impactor, slam it into the comet, exposing the underlying material, which we believe obviously is going to be untouched since the birth of the solar system, and sample it and return it to the Earth. So scientifically, the payoff could be absolutely enormous. What we could see are organic molecules like amino acids. As we know, they're potential building blocks of life. We could find clues about how dust and gas combine to form planets. And finding such material in pristine condition would provide a direct record of the solar system's raw ingredients. So this is, if it comes off, this mission could be revolutionary in transforming our understanding of the birth and early history of the solar system. So Japan are looking at this for the 2030s. They haven't got any more fixed date than that. But this is going to be a really exciting mission to finally get some pristine material from the birth of the solar system. We have to say goodbye to a comet this week, unfortunately, that being Comet MAPS C2026A1. This was going to be a great comet, visible perhaps even in daylight across a large part of the sky. But because we know the history of comets, we didn't really believe that. And so it came to pass that the comet, as you can see here, passed around the sun and didn't reappear around the other side. So it was consumed and vaporized by the sun, which is a great shame. And I have to say here, you can see the comet impacting the sun about the 8 o'clock position. At the same time, or just afterwards, there's an emission at 2 o'clock on the opposite side of the sun. That's a solar flare. It's a solar ejection. It's got nothing to do with the comet. It's just coincidental. But if you are waiting for a good comet to look at, the next candidate will be Comet C2025 R3 Pan-STARRS. And this is a more stable long period comet expected to peak in late April. At the moment, we don't know if it's going to rise to naked eye visibility. It looks as though it might, but it will certainly be a binocular object, and I'm sure Roger will keep you updated on that one. Moving on, we're not. Yes, we are. Sorry. We are pleased to announce that the Vera Rubin Observatory, even though its observing run of the Southern Hemisphere sky is not officially started yet, it's starting shortly, just in the test images, it's already discovered 11,000 new asteroids. And those new asteroids are shown here in the light blue color, with asteroids we already knew about in the darker blue color. But the fact that even just in the test images, Vera Rubin telescope, this revolutionary survey telescope in Chile, has discovered 11,000 new asteroids. It just goes to show the potential of this revolutionary telescope. We can't wait till it starts its observing run, and of course we'll bring it all to you on Space Oddities. I wouldn't mind betting we start a weekly slot telling you all the latest discoveries from the Vera Rubin, because don't forget the telescope is expected to send out up to about 10 million notifications per night of things that have changed in the night sky, which is what it's there for. It's the Vera Rubin telescope, as we've said before, is to take multiple images of the same area of sky, a minimum of 2 per night, and see what has changed, which it will then spot with some very clever software, and send out a notification if it sees anything that's changed. So this could be an asteroid, it could be a supernova, anything in the images that's changed. Astronomers will get to know about it almost immediately.
Oh,
so
that's an amazing number of discoveries already, isn't it?
It is 11,000 new asteroids we didn't know about. None of them are NEOs. None of them are going to pose any threat to the Earth out of the ones that it has discovered, but you never know. It may discover dangerous asteroids, which is a good reason for having it on its own, I think.
Yeah.
So there we are. So that's great news. We're going to move across the solar system to Mars now, and the very interesting discovery about Mars. Now, as you know, Mars appears to be geologically quiet, but a new study shows that its dust storms are actually driving modern chemistry. Now, these as you can see, are the Martian dust devils. These are sort of mini tornadoes on Mars. We've known about them for many, many years, and of course the Mars exploration rovers were the first to actually take time-lapse photos of these dust devils moving across the surface of Mars. I've seen something very similar in the deserts of North Africa, and I was thrilled to see it. I remember yelling out of the car to my wife, "Look, it's dust devils, we're on Mars," and she wasn't impressed, but you can't please everybody. So anyway, these dust grains and these dust devils collide and build up large charges of static electricity, and this can actually generate electrostatic discharges, tiny sparks, not exactly lightning, but certainly tiny sparks as these particles rub against each other. And these discharges initiate electrochemical reactions that can generate compounds such as chlorine species, carbonates, and perchlorates. Perchlorates are these very, very nasty compound that is in the soil of Mars, maybe by weight only about 2.5 to 3%. But perchlorates are nasty because if humans ingest them, they attack the thyroid gland and can lead to serious illness. So this is something that Martian astronauts will have to make sure they don't swallow. Not that they would, I suppose, but you know, if it's anything like lunar dust, it will get everywhere. But a key advance here is the use of isotopes. The researchers found that these electrically driven reactions leave distinct isotopic fingerprints, if you like, allowing scientists to identify them as a major contributor to Mars' present-day chemistry rather than a minor effect. The findings suggest Mars is still chemically active today, with dust storms continuously altering the surface and atmosphere. And this includes driving a modern chlorine cycle where materials lifted, transformed, and redeposited across the planet. And more broadly, the work implies that similar dust-driven electrical chemistry could operate on other worlds, meaning this process may be common among the solar system and not unique to Mars. So this is a really interesting finding. Lou, I wonder whether you've got any thoughts about that, or Dave.
Well, I think that makes sense. Of course, these dust devils are driven by the really enormous temperature drop from surface to vertical height. So you have enormous opportunities for convection. And
Yeah.
I've not seen them this large on the screen here, but I've seen smaller dust devils as they move their way across the surface. And of course, they happen more frequently during perihelion, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the chemistry, I'm not sure.
Yeah, saw those in Arizona as well when I lived there. We see them, but there was a mission that was proposed. Boy, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It was called SKIM, and the idea was it was going to go to Mars and go as deep into the atmosphere as it could safely go and just collect samples of what they were hoping was this kind of lofted dust and then bring it back to Earth. It would be a sort of the first Mars sample return mission, just scooping up dust in the very upper atmosphere of Mars. I thought it was a pretty cool mission, but it never got funded. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good idea, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Lou, if I remember correctly, the tallest dust devil ever observed on Mars was about 1/2 mile high. So they can grow to some considerable size.
Okay. Well, that's enormous. The ones I've seen from Curiosity and Perseverance.
Oh, they're babies. Yeah. Right. So really interesting stuff about this chlorine cycle being driven by dust, basically on Mars. So interesting stuff. We're going to stay with Mars because there's another interesting story. We know that Mars is now a cold desert, but it may once have experienced sustained rainfall over long periods. And this evidence comes from NASA's Perseverance rover, which has discovered these unusual white rocks in Jezero crater. These rocks are rich in kaolinite. It's a clay mineral that on Earth forms in warm, wet environments with heavy, persistent rainfall. We typically find these in tropical regions where there are rainforests. This is significant, of course, because kaolinite requires long-term exposure to large amounts of water, and researchers argue it likely formed through rainfall and surface water, altering the rocks over millions of years, rather than short-lived events like floods or hydrothermal activity. And the samples closely match the kaolinite found on Earth, strengthening this case that Mars once had a sustained humid climate with active rainfall. There's still some uncertainty about this, of course. And sorry, I missed that. Did the rocks originate where they are today? Have they been moved by water, ancient rivers? Not sure yet. But the findings overall suggest Mars was not just briefly wet, but may have had a stable rain-driven water cycle, much more like Earth than was previously thought. So this is another amazing discovery by the Perseverance rover. Okay, going to move to something entirely different now, and that is to say pair instability supernovae, which I'm sure you all know about. So this is a long theorized type of stellar explosion, so powerful that it completely destroys the star, leaving nothing behind, and I mean nothing. So these are called pair instability supernovae, and they're thought to occur in extremely massive stars, perhaps around 140 to 260 times the mass of the Sun. Unlike typical supernovae, which leave behind either a neutron star or a black hole, depending on how massive the star was, these explosions obliterate the star entirely. Now, this has not come about through observations with telescopes, believe it or not. This has come about by looking at gravitational wave events. And this is another fascinating bit of science to come out of the study of gravitational waves, because what researchers have noticed with looking at the nearly 500 black hole mergers that have so far been detected by LIGO, Virgo, CAGRA, they've noticed a mass gap of between about 44 to 116 solar masses. So there's an absence of black holes in that mass range. And one explanation for this is that stars in that mass range don't form black holes at all. So they are consumed by these enormous explosions that completely destroy the star, and therefore no neutron star or black hole ever gets formed. And the physics behind this involves extreme temperatures inside the star, where high energy light particles convert into electron-positron pairs. This weakens the pressure supporting the star, triggering a runaway collapse followed by a catastrophic thermonuclear explosion. They've been predicted since the 1960s, but of course these explosions are rare and they're very difficult to observe directly. So this new approach, by using gravitational waves to spot this mass gap, a gap in the massive ranges with black holes where there just aren't any black holes, could well be telling us that stars between about 44 to 116 solar masses get completely obliterated and don't form black holes of that mass. So this is really interesting as well. We've now got a new tool for investigating these rare supernovae with these very massive, very, very hot stars. So there we are. And lastly, today we're going to stay with black holes, because something else has been discovered, which I had to reread to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding it, but it's actually true. Now, we know that black holes can act as a throttle on star formation in galaxies, because they put out from the accretion disk surrounding them, of course, not from the black hole themselves, because no radiation can escape a black hole, of course, but from the accretion disk, they generate vast quantities of radiation across the electromagnetic spectrum, particularly X-rays. And this can dissipate the pressure of this wind from the black hole, if you like, can dissipate star-forming regions, star-forming gas clouds, and stop the gas clouds from collapsing to form stars. And we've known about this for a while, that the black hole has a direct effect on controlling, if you like, star formation in the galaxies that they are at the centers of. We're talking supermassive black holes at the center of the galaxies, of course. But now a new study has shown that they can actually control star formation in neighboring galaxies as well. So this study focuses on quasars. Now, these are the extremely bright, active supermassive black holes at the centers of young galaxies, which emit these enormous amounts of radiation as they consume matter. And researchers have discovered this radiation can actually travel millions of light years and disrupt star formation in neighboring galaxies. And this does help explain a mystery seen by the James Webb Space Telescope. Regions around some early quasars appear to contain fewer visible galaxies than expected. Rather than being absent, those galaxies may simply have had their star formation suppressed, making them very faint and difficult to detect. And this challenges a long-held view that galaxies evolved largely in isolation. Instead, they suggest a kind of galactic ecosystem where powerful objects like quasars influence the growth and evolution of surrounding galaxies across vast distances. So in short, galaxy evolution may not be an independent process at all. Giant black holes may be able to act as cosmic regulators, shaping entire regions of the universe. And if you don't find that mind-blowing, there's no hope for you. Yeah, truly. So I found that amazing, the idea that supermassive black holes can control star formation in neighboring galaxies, which is quite stunning when you think about it. But it would explain the JWST observations of these quasars that don't appear to have neighboring galaxies. Not because they're not there, it's just that their star formation has been greatly suppressed. So there we
Andy,
So it's an interesting balance. On the one hand, the supernova that results in the black hole is sending out material that allows for star formation.
Yes.
On the other hand, it's taking away. So don't know what the balance is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was saying the other day that I think we're only beginning to glimpse how important black holes are to the evolution of the universe. And this just is another data point to say, yeah, they can actually influence a whole cosmic neighborhood of galaxies.
even neighboring galaxies.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to go back, Andy. I just wanted to, while you were, after you talked about the Vera Rubin telescope and finding the 11,000 galaxies, I did a quick quick search here, and I just wondered. I was curious to know if you wanted to guess how long it took to find the first 11,000 galaxies.
Are you talking about asteroids?
The asteroids, galaxies.
Yeah.
Yes. Asteroids. Thank you.
I think we know of more than 11,000 galaxies. How long it took to
find from Ceres in 1801 to find the first 11,000 asteroids?
I would guess it's going to be, what did you say, 1801?
Was Ceres, right. So
yeah.
How long to find the first 11,000?
I would guess that we didn't discover 11,000 asteroids until perhaps the 1940s and 1950s.
Yep. No, it's actually 1978. 107. So it took 177 years to discover the first 11,000 asteroids, and I guess we discovered 11,000 in a little test run of a. I just thought to put it in perspective of how amazing that is, that it could find those asteroids that quickly.
And in fact, I think I read that the 11,000 asteroids were discovered in just a few hours with the so.
What's that ratio?
I don't know. I'm not going to work it out. I'm not a mathematician.
Yeah, well, you could do that too. But man, I just thought that I just was curious when I heard that. I said, I wonder when asteroid 11,000 was discovered.
That's amazing, Dave. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was sort of. I thought that was.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. So that's the news for tonight. Anyway, we're going to move on and for the main feature tonight, which we're going to look forward to the upcoming Artemis missions. And what have we got in each? And we will try and return to the clips video before the end of the show, and see whether we can get that working.
I think it's 150,000. That's your
wow.
ratio.
150,000. Amazing. Yeah. So there we are. Before we move on, though, I'd just like to just do a bit of housekeeping. If you would like to support Space Oddities, you can do so in a frankly bewildering number of ways. The most basic way and perhaps easiest for you is to buy us a coffee. And if you scan the QR code or click the link that's just appeared in the chat, that will take you to our Buy Me a Coffee page, where you can keep our caffeine levels at the level they should be maintained. So thank you very much for that. You can also make a donation directly to Space Oddities by clicking the Super Chat icon. That's the one underneath the chat window with the $sign on, and that will allow you to make a donation directly. All of the money that is kindly given to us by our viewers goes towards keeping Space Oddities going, and we have our 4th anniversary next month. So and it's it's true.
So the honeymoon is over.
Yeah. So, you know, it's thanks to you, Space Oddities viewers, that we've been able to keep going for nearly 4 years. No other reason, because we get advertising revenue, but frankly, it's pretty poor. In fact, it's incredibly poor. In fact, it's not even worth mentioning. So it's mainly due to donations from you kind of people out there that keep Space Oddities going, delivering the what we like to think is quality, objective science week after week for you, and all the other videos that we do. So thank you from the heart of our bottoms that you've given us all this money, and it will allow us to keep the show on the road, pay the bills, and keep giving you what we love giving you. So thank you for that. Don't forget, you can also join our Patreon page, because we do have a Patreon page, and the Patreon page is very, very simple to find. It's let me put it up on the screen. It's patreon.com/Space Oddities. Couldn't be easier. And the Patreon page, if you just for a few pounds a month, you get all the presentations that we deliver. you get exclusive videos, and you get some other goodies as well. And that's another way of supporting your favorite space channel on YouTube. And if it isn't your favorite space channel, then please leave now. That's all I've got to say. So there we are. So join our Patreon, join the community there. A lot of fun, and we hope to see.
Look at those numbers drop.
Yeah. So there we are.
Many a true word said in jest.
Join our Patreon's page, or we'll shoot this off.
The puppy gets it.
Yeah, I'll light this candle.
Every week that you don't join, a puppy dies. So
no, Andy.
so there we are. You can also buy your glorious Space Oddities merchandise at the Space Oddities shop. We've got T-shirts and hoodies on offer there. The T-shirts, fantastic quality, start at £20, including UK postage and packing. And the hoodies, of which this is an example, coming up now. There we are. You've got two types of hoodie, over the head or zip up, and they start at £40, including UK postage and packing. If you're buying from abroad, and why wouldn't you, then please add £10 to the total value of your order to cover the postage. So there we are. So that's got all that stuff out of the way. So as we said, this is going to be the last time that we talk about Artemis, at least for a while, I suspect. Moving on to other stuff next week, because we think we've given you enough about Artemis over the last several weeks. But it's been a fantastic mission, as I'm sure you would all agree, and well worth talking about, well worth telling you all about and communicating our excitement about the mission, particularly as it's been a remarkably successful mission with very few problems. I think that the worst problem they encountered was the malfunctioning space toilet. So an amazingly successful mission, but there's a lot more coming up. So we're going to tell you all about the upcoming Artemis missions now. So I'm going to go over to Dave, and he's going to be telling you about the next Artemis mission, Artemis 3.
Okay, thanks. And let me emphasize about buying us a coffee. It'll help keep me from confusing galaxies and asteroids.
Oh, we live in hope, Dave.
Be very, very helpful. Okay, so yes, Artemis 3. So the natural thing I wanted to do is basically Artemis 3 is now our modern version of Apollo 9. And since I love history and going back and looking at all the stuff, I thought I'd talk about Apollo 9 a little bit and then get on to Artemis 3 for a couple of reasons. One, Apollo 9 is pretty interesting, and there's it's very, very similar in many ways. The other is we don't know a whole lot about Artemis 3 right now, and I will I'll get to that right now, I guess. So Artemis 2 we all just saw. I assume we all saw it, and that was amazing. And that was now the 10th mission to actually bring humans to the vicinity of the moon. Whoops. And did we lose the... Are you still seeing the... I'm sorry. Are you still seeing the screen?
We just see the panel.
You're seeing the Artemis panel? You're seeing it? Okay. All right.
No. The six of us.
All right. It dropped off.
Not your slides.
I didn't do anything, but let me try sharing it again.
That's what everyone says as they go to the IT guy and say, "Hey, I didn't do anything."
I didn't touch anything weird. No, I better not say it. All right, never mind. Let me get back to where I was. Okay, share this window. All right. Sorry about that. In any case, okay. So Artemis 2 you saw, and the plan was for Artemis 3 to become basically the 7th mission to land humans on the moon, but that changed. Wow. Okay. Geez, I'm not sure what's going on.
Are you driving this from your
Yeah,
screen,
yeah,
Dave, from your computer?
I did upload it. If you want to try it from there, Andy, I don't.
You might try
Yeah,
that.
let me try one more time. But yeah, it's funny. It's like it's timing itself out or something. Okay. Well, I'm trying it again. So all right. So okay. so anyway, I think that going straight from 2 to 3 in my mind was a little dangerous. Wow. All right, Andy, can you put it up? I uploaded it on. I don't know. It's done. I'm really baffled now. It's almost like it's timing itself out. I don't really understand it. Okay, well, in any case, so this is the new plan, and now they've inserted something between Artemis 2 and 3, a new Artemis 3 basically, and that's what we'll talk about. The plan is now to put basically a mission in Earth orbit and test out the docking the Orion spacecraft, undocking the Orion spacecraft with whatever lunar lander they choose, and I'll get into that that complication in a moment, and then moving on to what will be Artemis 4 to go to touch down on the moon. So, like I said, Apollo 9 had the exact same basic mission. From March 3rd to 13th in 1969, they just went into an Earth orbit with the command and service module and the lunar module, and they practiced.
Dave, it's gone again.
It's gone again. Ay, ay, ay.
Sorry about this, viewers. Problem here. We've got a self-destructing presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, what we'll do, Dave, if you could upload your presentation again.
Okay. Yeah, I did send it to.
Hang on 1 second. Let me see if I can get it back.
I sent it, yesterday, the day before.
Right. Maybe I'll try that. Try that. I think I may have fixed it. Hopefully.
Okay. All right. We'll have to try this out later. Okay. All right. In any case, Apollo 9 had the similar mission, basically this, and I'll talk about this in a second. So if we could go one more, I'll show you why I'm happy they did this. So the next slide. Oh, maybe. Am I in charge of that? No, I don't know. So I can control it, but you're showing it. All right. Yeah. In any case, here's why.
Oh no, it's gone again.
It's gone again. No, it just keeps disappearing. Dave, if you can re-upload it, we'll move on to something else now. So,
okay. All right.
Viewers waiting. We'll come back to Lou. In the meantime, we're going to try the NASA CLPS mission again. Sorry about all the technical problems, viewers. It does happen from time to time. Circumstances beyond our control at the moment. We'll go back to the NASA CLPS video, and hopefully after that we'll be able to bring you the rest of the Artemis 3. Our deepest apologies. So let's move on somewhere around there. I think we were.
That's where we were, Andy. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I don't hear anything.
Landing on the 6th of March 2025, but its instruments remained partially functional, albeit with a reduced downlink capacity, for a few hours before power ran out. So the mission was judged a partial failure. On March the 13th, Intuitive Machines shared that, like on the IM-1 mission, the Athena's altimeter had failed during landing, leaving its onboard computer without an accurate altitude reading. As a result, the spacecraft struck a plateau, tipped over and skidded across the lunar surface, rolling once or twice before settling inside the crater. The company's CEO compared it to a baseball player sliding to a base. During the slide, the spacecraft rolled once or twice before coming to rest inside the crater. The impact also kicked up regolith that coated the solar panels in dust, further degrading their performance. So as you see, so far the CLPS missions have had mixed results. So what about future missions? Well, we've also got the Intuitive Machines Nova C, which is due to land on the near side at the Rainier Gamma. Rainier Gamma is one of the Moon's most visually striking features, a bright curved lunar swirl whose origin remains poorly understood. This CLPS mission will be the first dedicated in-situation investigation of a lunar swirl's magnetic and plasma environment. It will be carrying 4 NASA's CLPS instruments, focused on magnetic anomalies, charged particle environments and surface properties of lunar swirls, and includes instruments to measure local magnetic fields, plasma and regolith characteristics to understand swirl formation. Astrobotics Griffin Mission 1. The Griffin 1 mission aims to deliver a suite of scientific, technological and cultural payloads to the Moon's south pole, specifically targeting the Nobile crater region near Mons Mouton. Scheduled for launch no earlier than July 2026, Griffin 1 is a key component of NASA's Artemis program, supporting lunar science and exploration for future crewed missions. Griffin Mission 1 is designed to conduct experiments and technology demonstrations focused on lunar resource prospecting, volatile characterization, and surface operations in the rugged terrain of the lunar south pole. The mission was originally planned to carry NASA's Volatiles Investigating Polar Exploration Rover, or VIPER, but following its cancellation in July 2024, the mission was reconfigured with alternative payloads while retaining its CLPS task mission. Griffin 1 carries a diverse set of payloads from NASA, ESA and from other partners. It carries Astrolab Flip rover, a 50 kilogram rover capable of carrying 30 kilograms of additional payloads, a precursor to their Flex rover. Also, the Astrobotic Q rover, a 2U-sized mobile rover designed for mobility demonstrations, capable of traversing several kilometers and recharging via solar panels. It is also carrying a nanofish, Galactic Library Preserve Humanity, a durable nanoscale archive etched on nickel, containing cultural and intellectual artifacts including literature, art, historical documents, etc. It is designed to endure lunar conditions for millions of years. Another future mission is set for the far side of the Moon, and it is the Draper/iSpace US Apex 1.0 mission, which is targeted for the Schrödinger Basin. Team Draper leads the task order, with iSpace US providing the Apex 1.0 lander platform, the first non-US heritage lander in the CLPS fleet. Schrödinger Basin is a large, relatively young impact structure near the lunar south pole on the far side. scientifically compelling but never directly visited. The Apex 1.0 lander, built by iSpace, will require relay communications to maintain Earth contact, marking a significant operational step for CLPS Fireside delivery capability. It will study geology, studying the structure and composition of a young high-latitude impact basin, and also look at heat flow, probing interior thermal gradients from the Fireside surface. Also volatile content, assessing ice and volatile distribution at extreme southern latitudes. Future missions also include investigation of the far side of the Moon, and that is the destination for Firefly's Blue Ghost Mission 2. Building on Mission 1's success, Blue Ghost 2 will push into genuinely new territory, the lunar far side, permanently shielded from Earth's radio noise. The mission will require dedicated relay communication infrastructure, a capability milestone for commercial lunar delivery. The aim is to look at radio quiet science. The far side is uniquely shielded from terrestrial interference, enabling low-frequency radio astronomy impossible from Earth or the near side. It will also be doing surface and interior probing. Instruments will characterize far-side surface properties and probe the lunar interior from an unexplored vantage point. The lander will also be trying and testing relay comms. Mission operations will validate relay communication architectures needed for sustained far-side and crewed Artemis activities. Back to the near side and some volcanic science, which will be conducted by Firefly's Blue Ghost 3 mission at the Carthusian Domes. The Carthusian Domes are among the Moon's greatest geological mysteries. Steeply sided, silica-rich volcanic structures whose formations defies conventional lunar volcanism theory. Standard lunar magmas lack the water and heat needed to produce such silica compositions. Blue Ghost will deploy 6 NASA instruments combining seismology, thermal imaging, and in-situ geochemistry to answer the question, how did silica-rich magmas form on a nominally dry Moon? Intuitive Machines are also sending another Nova C lander to Mons Mouton. A second Nova C mission that targets Mons Mouton at the lunar South Pole. Independently of the Griffin Viper delivery, it will also carry 6 NASA instruments focused on surface environment, volatiles, and landing site characteristics to directly support future crewed Artemis operations in the region. Also, Blue Origin's Blue Moon Mark 1 is also designated for the South Pole. Blue Origin's Blue Moon Mark 1 represents the next scale of CLPS missions. A high-mass lander targeting the lunar South Pole with 2 focused instruments validating technology for large-scale cargo and infrastructure delivery, a key enabler of the CLPS 2.0 paradigm. Looking even further ahead. Further CLPS missions include Firefly Ghost 4, a later decade South Pole mission carrying 4 instruments emphasizing polar volatile science, regolith mechanics, and environmental monitoring, data essential for designing long-duration surface systems. Intuitive Machines Nova D. Nova D is a larger, higher capacity lander than Nova C, carrying 6 instruments targeting infrastructure readiness, in-situ resource utilization, and environmental characterization, bridging directly towards permanent Artemis surface assets. CLPS is working towards delivery on demand. NASA is accelerating towards 2 or 3 commercial lunar landings per year, creating a sustainable cadence of science and technology delivery to support upcoming crewed Artemis missions.
Right, great. Well, thank you. I'm sorry that we couldn't bring you the entirety of that video earlier, but we seem to be okay now. I hope that was okay on YouTube. So the emphasis very much.
Sorry, Andy, it played perfectly on YouTube. Just one thing I wanted to point out. On the second from last slide, it had the Viper and the Blue Moon Mark 1. Well, the Viper is actually now being delivered by the Blue Moon Mark 1, because it did have Griffin. It was an old infogram, and it still had the Griffin Viper. So
Yes.
it will be. So the Viper rover will be delivered, which would be quite exciting, because it's got a drill and everything. It's got all this stuff with it, but it's actually going on the Blue Origin's Mark 1 moon lander.
Yeah, and of course the original launch of Viper was cancelled due to cost cutting, essentially. But we're glad that Viper, that rover's going to finally make it back to the moon, because although it's not a big rover, it's quite sophisticated. So hopefully some great science to come out of that. Right, we're going to try going back to Dave now. If Dave is ready.
I'm ready. Did you get the upload, or do you want me to try from here again? Although that's kind of the definition of insanity.
Yeah, I don't see it in the directory here, Dave. So try sharing your screen again.
Okay.
So we can try to talk about Artemis 3 again. Okay, let's put this up on the screen again.
Okay, here we go. All right, so yeah, as I said, I'm happy about that, and here's the reason why. These are basically what the Artemis missions are replacing, or what their equivalent is during the Apollo program. And for Artemis 1, it basically replaced all of these uncrewed test missions. There were even another 5 or 6 before that used the Saturn 1B and did other tests. But as far as sort of full up uncrewed test missions, and there it goes again.
Let's go again.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I think, Dave, would you mind just narrating it, as we can't seem to have the visuals, or do you really need the visuals?
No, I could do that. I mean, I did load it onto up to the Restream studio. I thought in the past you were able to get those, and I did it again just while Daz's thing was on.
It's not there.
Okay. All right. Sure. All right. I can talk about it.
Thanks.
Yeah. So anyway, there were 4 sort of full up uncrewed test missions, which Artemis 1 was replacing. They were going to go straight to, So now Artemis 2 was basically Apollo 8. In other words, send something to the moon, go around the moon, come back. And there were some differences, but it was basically the same idea. We'll test out all the systems getting to the moon, getting back, making sure all that stuff works fine. That they were going to go straight to the Artemis 3 going to the moon, which would have been basically Apollo 11. I am happy that they have added an extra step, because I think they were rushing things. And so I think that going into the Earth orbit and testing out things for Artemis 3 will be safer, and I think it's worth doing. And I'm glad they're doing it. Basically, Artemis 3 will be replacing Apollo 7 and Apollo 9. Apollo 7 was a crewed 3 astronauts on Apollo, went into Earth orbit, did lots of testing and experimenting and stuff in test orbit, and just came back down. Now Apollo 9 is the one I want to talk about, and that's the one where they actually launched with the lunar module, and they basically Well, here's the thing about Apollo 9. That's kind of amazing. It's the first. They went up with the command module, service module, and lunar module. They hooked them all together. James McDivitt and Rusty Schweickart got into the lunar module, and they detached from the command module, and they did all sorts of experiments. They tried the descent engine, they tried the ascent engine. They actually went almost 100 nautical miles away to ring all these experiments from the command module. All this in a spacecraft which could not possibly return to Earth by itself. The lunar module obviously was not made to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. So the thing about this mission is if anything had gone wrong and those guys could not get back to the command module, they had no way to get back to Earth alive. And so it was considered one of the most, sort of daring or dangerous missions that's ever been done, because it was the first time that astronauts had gone separately into a vehicle which they could not return in. And so you can imagine what that must have been like. But everything worked fine. It worked very smoothly, and they basically they spent 10 days out in orbit. They spent 6.5 hours separated, the lunar module from the command module. Again, I said the maximum distance they reached apart was 98 nautical miles. They did test fire the descent engine on the lunar module and the ascent engine. And Rusty Schweickart actually did a spacewalk also that went for 47 minutes. They were going to originally do a little more daring kind of spacewalk, where he was going to do a spacewalk from the command module to the lunar module while they were attached, but still, and just a sort of a proof of concept that they could get in and out of both vehicles in space, but he had thrown up the day earlier, and so they had concerns that if he threw up in a spacesuit, it would not be good. So they decided to just do a regular spacewalk, 47 minutes, where he could get right back into the capsule if anything went wrong. So they cut that out. But that wasn't really one of the more important parts of the mission anyway. Artemis 3 now is, well, there's a lot of uncertainty, or there's a lot of different paths that Artemis 3 could take. But the basic idea is we're going to launch the Orion capsule into space, and then we're going to launch a lunar lander, but maybe not just one lunar lander, into space also, and then test out the same thing they did on Apollo 9, dock them, undock them, test out all the engines, how they behave together. There's important things too about having two spacecraft docked together, just how they behave. When you fire engines, there can be oscillations, there can be various things that maybe you can't really test on Earth, or you can't test separately. They've got to be together in order to test these things to see how they affect each other. And the structures can certainly have sort of synergies that you wouldn't be able to tell without actually testing them. But the trick for this is that they have now said that SpaceX and Blue Origin are going to be basically competing for which is going to be the lunar lander. SpaceX has the Starship human landing system, and I think Lou is going to tell you all about these in more detail. Blue Moon has the Lunar Blue Origin Mark II, and these are both really big spacecraft. If you're thinking about the lunar module, don't think about the lunar module anymore. These are monstrous spacecraft. I have no idea why they feel like they need to land such large things on the moon, but that's not my call. But in any case, if both SpaceX and Blue Origin are ready, have functional spacecraft that they can put into Earth orbit by next year, they're going to test both of them. And as best I can tell from what I see, they're going to send up the Orion capsule and both of these guys. It's going to dock and experiment with one of them, and then it's going to go to the other one and dock and experiment with that one, because they're not talking about launching the Orion twice. They only have one launch planned for it. So as far as I know, they're going to try to do that. I have no idea how that's going to work. I mean, everything's going to have to launch exactly on time and all that. But okay, but that is one thing that's sort of up in the air about this mission. The other, well, okay, a few other things. Another thing is they have not decided whether it's going to be done in low Earth orbit, which would be easier and require a lot less. Well, there's other pieces that they would need to go into high Earth orbit, but the low Earth orbit would be easier, but would not be really give them the same kind of environment as they would find at the moon, and so they would preferably do it in high Earth orbit where they really could be out in space and out past the Earth's magnetic field and out and with the kind of thermal and operational environment that they would find at the moon. That hasn't been decided yet. So I don't know when that will be decided, but but they will be basically doing everything that the Artemis 4 plan would require, except for obviously the landing and doing it all in Earth orbit. And I'd love to show you the picture of what it looks like with this little tiny Orion capsule hooked up to this giant SpaceX or Blue Origin lunar lander. But I guess you can imagine if you saw those pictures, and I assume Lou will probably have some of that for you. So there's a part called the ICPS, and that would not be required to be built and added to this to do it at low Earth orbit, but they would need it for the high Earth orbit. So that's still being decided, and maybe will depend on whether this piece can be built or not. And I don't remember what ICPS stands for off the top of my head now. But they will do tests. They'll be doing testing, docking, undocking. They'll be testing propulsion. They'll be testing life support, all the communication systems. What we used to call a spacesuit is now an extravehicular mobility unit, just so you know. And they will be testing out the new Axiom extravehicular mobility units on this mission. And of course, they'll be doing EVAs, extravehicular activities, spacewalks and things like that, and testing out various things. And again, as I said, just the synergies between the two structures hooked together in Earth orbit, they'll be testing and looking at that and studying that. And I guess, as I said, there's really a lot that's I was going to say up in the air. That's probably Andy's influence, but there's a lot we don't know about Artemis 3, and I think there'll be a lot of news coming out over the next few months, because they really did just change this to add this Artemis 3 into the
Can I just interrupt a second there, Dave?
Yeah.
I think this is what you were talking about.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah, the enormous Starship docked with what now looks like a tiny Orion capsule.
And it just looks like, right.
And in fact, with the now that the Lunar Gateway has been shelved, the one thing they did find was that the Lunar Starship may have been too big to dock with the Lunar Gateway, because it completely unbalanced it.
That's true.
Yeah. So perhaps it's a good thing the Lunar Gateway isn't going forward in that respect. So, sorry, did you finish? Is that it?
That was it. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, right. Thank you, Dave, for that. So, as Dave said, we don't know that much about Artemis 3, other than the fact they're going to dock the Orion spacecraft in Earth orbit with either the SpaceX Lunar Starship or the Blue Origin Blue Moon Lander Mark II lander.
Or both.
Or both.
Okay.
And
interesting.
NASA haven't made that decision. So I'd just like to talk to you for a little bit about these two possible lunar landers. And as we know, both companies, both SpaceX and Blue Origin, are developing these lunar landing systems known collectively as the HLS, the Human Landing System, Just to give you a bit of history on this, I think it was around 2021, NASA put out a tender for a company that would build the vehicle to land humans on the moon. And there were several designs considered, the SpaceX Lunar Starship, which you see here, which I'll talk about in a moment, the Blue Origin lander, and another lander called the Alpaca. The Alpaca was rejected in the initial round of the tender because it was had far too much mass. And other than that, was a good design, but it was just too massive for the job. And that left SpaceX and Blue Origin. Now, SpaceX came in at a much lower tender price than Blue Origin, and they were selected. And then what happened was that Jeff Bezos threw a little hissy fit and took NASA to court, saying the selection process had been unfair, Blue Origin should have got it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually, third-party adjudication examined the whole tender process and said that there was nothing wrong with the tender, and that SpaceX should indeed have been awarded it. And Bezos has been a little bit upset about that ever since. So what happened fairly recently was that NASA decided that SpaceX were running behind on the Lunar Starship because the whole of the Starship program is behind schedule, which is not surprising considering it's a completely new vehicle and the most amazing rocket ever built, the most amazing space vehicle ever built. It has, as you know, had several setbacks, several explosions of the Starship on test flights. But NASA said that, you know, to move Artemis forward, they were going to reopen the tender to other companies to develop a lunar lander. And of course, Blue Origin popped up again and said, we'll do it. So Blue Origin were asked to design an alternative lunar lander, which they are now intending to fly to the moon. Both companies have got a lot to do before Artemis 3, which is scheduled for do we know when next year Artemis 3 is scheduled for, Dave, or is it just sometime next year?
Yeah, no, middle of next year is the latest, I think, but there's not a date yet.
Right. So sometime next year, let's say, Artemis 3 is going to fly, but both companies have got a lot to do to get their designs ready. And, you know, as we said, NASA may choose to dock the Orion with both of them in Earth orbit, although obviously not at the same time. So to test both of them out. And after that, we expect that one of them will be given the job of landing humans on the moon. Now, as you can see from this, the SpaceX Lunar Starship is a massive rocket. It's the same size as a normal Starship. So, you know, one big advantage of this is that it has a truly amazing payload capacity. Let's run through the details for the HLS. So the first thing we will look at is the crew capacity. The Starship can take between 2 and 4 people to the moon. It's designed for lunar missions lasting about 4 days. And lots of technical reasons for that, apparently, but it's only meant to be on the moon for a maximum of 4 days. It's a 50-meter tall vehicle. Now, you can see from this image, although this image is a little blurry, I've just realized. But anyway, you can see at the top, towards the top, underneath the nose cone, if you like, see the NASA symbol there. Well, that's the door that opens. And astronauts will descend to the surface in an elevator, which you can see at the base of the rocket. And this has been tested. They've been testing the elevator for quite some time now. And, you know, but it's the only way of getting in and out of the spaceship. There's no ladder. You couldn't seriously expect astronauts to climb up all the side of the rocket in bulky spacesuits. It would be exceptionally dangerous. So that's how they're going to get the astronauts onto the surface. By contrast, the Alpaca design that was rejected for the HLS was far more a horizontal spacecraft that had about 4 steps from the door leading down to the lunar surface with a handrail. So, that was much safer. But this is the way that the Lunar Starship will do it. It uses a propellant of methane, and the oxidizer, of course, is liquid oxygen. It will need to be refueled in Earth orbit many times before setting off for the moon. So the idea is that it will launch on a Falcon Super Heavy booster, the one that's currently launching the Starship, which will take it into Earth orbit. Then its fuel will need to be replaced, and estimates vary for how many refueling trips will be needed. But basically the idea is that once it's in Earth orbit, Starship tankers will lift off from the Earth, fly into Earth orbit, dock with the Starship and refuel it. This may need to be done up to a dozen times before the Lunar Starship is totally fueled. This is because, of course, all the time that precious fuel is boiling off in Earth orbit. So, they're losing some all the time. So to make it permanently, to fuel it permanently full, they will need to run lots and lots of tanker missions. Alternatively, they may have one giant tanker in orbit that is fueled, and the Lunar Starship will dock with that. We don't know yet. We don't know. But time is getting on, and SpaceX haven't even tried the refueling maneuver in space, which has never been done before, with any quantity of fuel, that is. They were hoping to start the refueling experiment missions in Earth orbit next month. In fact, originally they said they were going to start it in May this year. Well, they're still having big problems getting the Starship working at all. Although I doubt that. I doubt that it will go on for much longer. I'm sure they'll solve the problems. We've got the third version of the Starship Block 3, having its first test flight next month. With the new Raptor engines and the new Super Heavy booster. So the next test flight, I think, will be crucial for SpaceX in getting the Starship working. If they have another disaster, they will be in deep trouble as far as supplying the HLS for Artemis goes.
Yeah, Andy?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of detail, I think. What I'm reading about this refueling is that there will be a large refueling depot, maybe 2 or 3 of them in Earth orbit.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
There will be many tankers brought up to fill that depot. Then the Starship will dock with and get the fuel from the depot. I think
yes, absolutely. But the thing about that is, I mean, where is this depot? They haven't even, as far as I know, they haven't built it yet. Certainly, they must be on the way. They must have designed it, surely. But this is all going to take a lot more time than I think even SpaceX realized to get this right, because they've only really got 2 years. I mean, sure, they won't need a refueling for Artemis 3, but they will need it for Artemis 4, and that's in 2 years' time. So they've got a mountain to climb there. They've got to build the tanker system. They've got to build the refueling depot. It's an awful lot to do, and we'll just have to wait and see. The Starship, of course, is fully reusable. All parts of it are fully reusable. The cargo capacity is up to 100 tons. So theoretically, the Lunar Starship can take 100 tons of equipment to the moon, which when you're building a moon base, that is a lot of cargo, useful cargo to take to the moon on one rocket. So this is a really, really good way of building that moon base quickly by sending 100 tons to the moon at a time. So that's a real plus in its favor. As we said, its first mission is going to be on Artemis 3. And the value of the contract that NASA have paid SpaceX is somewhere between 2.9 and 5.4 billion, depending on various factors. So that's the Lunar Starship. Now, on the other hand, we have the Blue Origin Blue Moon human landing system. It looks far more like the old Lunar rover, although obviously it's a lot taller. And as you can see, there are steps for the astronauts to get down to the moon. No descending 100 feet in an elevator. But let's have a look at this. So this too has a crew capacity of up to 4. It can stay on the moon for 30 days at a time, as against 4 days for the Lunar Starship. We don't know its height. Blue Origin are a very secretive company, and they're playing their cards very close to their chest, as always. Have not released any real information about this lander other than a picture. We don't know the height of it. Instead of using liquid methane and liquid oxygen, it's going to use hydrogen and liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen. And it won't need refueling. It will be taken directly to the moon by some vehicle that we're not quite sure which one yet. Its reusability is partial at best, but we really don't know the reusability capability of the lander. Cargo capacity, again, unknown. Blue Origin have not released that. And hopefully its first mission will be on Artemis 3, which was what Dave was talking about. So one of these 2 lunar landers will be chosen eventually for Artemis 4, the first crewed landing since 1972. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with these vehicles. But very different designs. The Lunar Starship has been criticized for being complete overkill in terms of its size, the complexity of refueling it in Earth orbit, and obviously the fact that the astronauts have to descend 100 feet on an elevator has been heavily criticized for that. So so let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what happens there. So there we are. So that's the that is the mouse pointer. Sorry. That's the lowdown on the 2 lunar landers.
Yeah, Andy, you were saying that the Lunar Starship, that is limited to 4 days on the moon.
Yes.
Do you think that's due to boil off of the fuel while it's actually on the moon, because it's going to be exposed to the sunlight?
I was wondering
all that
whether it
time.
had more to do with the batteries.
Could be. Could be a bit of
Be a
both.
power problem. I would be more inclined to think it was something to do with that. But I've looked for reasons why it's only 4 days. I haven't found exactly why they're quoting 4 days for the maximum length of a mission on the Starship. So so there we are.
So we're not sure whether or not the Blue Origin lander will be reusable at all.
No.
Because if it is, that's got to be refueled as well.
Well, in terms of reusability, Blue Origin have said it will be partially reusable, but they haven't said which part or why. So your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
So so there we are. All right. So that's Artemis 3, which is the rehearsal for the Artemis 4 mission, putting humans on the moon, in the same way that Apollo 9 was the rehearsal for Apollo 11. Excuse me, as Dave was saying. So let's move on now to have a look at Artemis 4 and 5 and beyond, and what happens after the initial Artemis missions. You've got 2 presentations here, Lou: Artemis 3 and beyond, Artemis 4 and beyond.
Yeah, pick the Artemis 4, I think, is the appropriate one.
Okay. So tell us then, Lou, what's this all about?
That's a really good question. I can't really believe we're going back to the moon after all this time and all the politics and all the, my goodness. But it appears that we will. And I'm hoping, of course, as many of our viewers know, when a new administration gets selected in the United States, sometimes, especially for human spaceflight, that alters the direction or the timing or even the goals of the human spaceflight. However, for now, we are going back to the moon with Artemis 4. And let's just take a quick look. Here's the schedule. So we've had Artemis 1 and 2. Artemis 3, mid-27. Artemis 4 is scheduled for early 28. This, by the way, in no small way is being driven by the Chinese interest in landing on the moon in 2030. So that is part of the Artemis Accords, and it is part of the program. And then late 28, Artemis 5. And the goal is, at least initially, to be able to launch every 10 months. So that, I imagine, is the cadence that they're looking for between Artemis 4 and 5, the first two landers on the lunar surface. So let's, okay. Before I go there, I just had a couple of thoughts about the HLS. I heard this great quote, Andy. I don't remember where it came from, but it said that NASA, for the lunar landers, NASA wanted a fishing boat, and SpaceX designed an aircraft carrier. That was great. And it may be, in fact, that what SpaceX has in mind is simply using the moon as a test bed for a future Mars mission.
Mm.
So given that the Gateway, which we'll talk about in just a second, has been not scrapped, but delayed in order to meet the primary mission objective, which is get boots on the moon, right? And you don't have to have a Gateway for that, and you don't have to have a hugely expensive and intricate SpaceX lander. So I'm guessing that if NASA sticks with its philosophy of keep your eye on the prize, get boots on the moon, that may give Blue Origins an edge. One other thing that I thought was kind of interesting is that the Blue Moon lander can be fueled with water that is mined from lunar ice. And it will separate the water into hydrogen and oxygen and use that as fuel. I just thought that was kind of amazing.
Yeah, it is.
But let's move on and talk about the Gateway, which was part of the program, a major part of the program up until recently. So national space policy prioritizes sending astronauts back to the lunar surface. In other words, boots on the ground, and building a lunar outpost on the surface of the moon. The current Gateway architecture, while relevant in some more general sense to long-term exploration goals, is not required to accomplish the primary objective of landing humans on the moon and establishing a lunar base. So, as a result, NASA is delaying the development of the lunar orbiting station, the Gateway, and will instead use Gateway elements and technology to enable building the moon base, shifting the focus of the resources and people to the surface, which will also include orbital elements to support surface operations. Some additional considerations: HLS providers do not require Gateway to accomplish their missions. Docking with orbiting platform came with some performance penalties, in fact. The Gateway launch to lunar orbit is significantly behind schedule and will likely be further delayed due to ongoing halo corrosion mitigation, not expected to reach initial operation status until perhaps 2030. Another good reason to refocus. And other Gateway modules are also behind schedule with significant technical challenges ahead. So Gateway is not dead, but is significantly minimized, I think, at least for now, and de-emphasized, I think, is the right way to talk about it. So Artemis 4. Now, here I have an image of the SpaceX lunar lander docking with the crew exploration vehicle, the Orion capsule. It may be SpaceX, it may be Blue Origin, we don't know. But Artemis 4 is currently planned as the first crewed lunar landing mission of the NASA Artemis program, targeting a launch in early 28 following a recent restructuring of the program, and that occurred in February of this year. It took over the landing objective originally intended for Artemis 3, which will now focus on docking, as we've just learned, docking tests in Earth orbit. So the mission will mark really humanity's first return to the lunar surface since Apollo 17 of 1972. It's just hard to wrap my head around. 2 of the 4 crew members will descend to the lunar South Pole for approximately 1 week, as things are planned now, to conduct scientific research. Astronauts will deploy instruments to study the lunar environment, including the DUSTER, D-U-S-T-E-R instrument suite to investigate moon dust and conduct field geology. Previous plans to deliver modules to the Lunar Gateway have been sidelined, of course, as NASA focuses on building infrastructure directly on the surface. Lander readiness will determine which provider, SpaceX or Blue Origins, will safely carry them to the surface and back to Orion in lunar orbit before the crew returns home aboard Orion. And as we have just seen, it will also splash down in the Pacific Ocean. I don't know why do we do splashdowns? The Russians, they land on the ground. It makes it a lot easier, I think. But in either event, we do. Work to standardize the SLS rocket will be implemented for Artemis 4. With this architecture approach, NASA is assessing alternative options for the second stage of the rocket. The interim cryogenic propulsion stage used for the first 3 missions will be replaced with a new second stage, and the agency is no longer planning to use the Exploration Upper Stage or Mobile Launcher 2 as the development of both has faced delays. More delays. Imagine that. NASA's plan calls for at least 1 crewed lunar surface landing per year. And again, as Isaacman has stated, that cadence is 10 months, following Artemis 3. Artemis 5, then, is a key milestone in achieving that operational tempo. Expanded heliophysics, life sciences, and lunar geology investigations using the Gateway's on-orbit labs, which will then be implemented on the surface, will be achieved. Will establish a regular cadence of crew handovers, validating long-duration lunar operations, and further crewed descents to the surface targeting scientifically rich sites include the lunar South Pole, primarily because of the what we believe is the existence of frozen water in the lunar South Pole craters. So you see things get a little fuzzier as we move out from Artemis 3 into the future. The Artemis campaign is the foundational phase of NASA's Moon, Mars, and Beyond strategy. The communications office of NASA at NASA headquarters has had that as their kind of a theme, Moon, Mars, and Beyond, for quite some years. It's designed to test the technologies and human endurance needed for a 2-year round trip to the Red Planet, while the Moon is only 3 days away. Mars is a multi-month journey. Artemis provides a nearly kind of a test bed, actually, to solve deep space challenges before committing to a much longer voyage. So the ultimate goal is Mars. And although the Lunar Artemis program is going to return great scientific data and great information about living on another world, it is in fact a stepping stone to the ultimate destination, which is Mars. So we will end there. Mars always seems about 20 years away, frankly. And so the agency does not have a date in mind yet for a a Mars mission, either orbiting, flyby, or landing. But as time goes on, hopefully that'll become more clear.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for that, Lou. Yes, exciting times ahead. What with the twin arms of exploration, if you like, the scientific method going to the moon on clips over the next few years. One thing we should have mentioned, of course, is that the Europeans will be setting up relay satellites around the moon to act as relays for the far side of the moon. And why is the far side important? Well, there are already plans afoot to build a radio telescope on the far side of the moon, strung across the bowl of a lunar crater. And of course, the far side of the moon is the perfect place to do optical and radio astronomy. Well, any type of astronomy, really, shielded from the electromagnetic chatter of the Earth. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But there will be relay satellites. So when astronauts in the future go behind the moon, they won't lose contact with the Earth, and we won't have that those nail-biting minutes when we're waiting for the astronauts to regain contact, which is always a bit of a fraught time, really. Okay, well, that finally brings us to the end of our coverage for Artemis. Of course, we will resume next year with the coverage and lead up to Artemis 3. But we hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the whole Artemis program up until now. And we will get on to other stuff next week. But don't go away, because we're going to resume regular programming now. We're going to go over to Dave for his historical, bless you.
Sorry about that.
There's always one, isn't there? Dave, as you may know, does a regular spot, a historical look back at the week in history from what was happening this week in bygone years. So, Dave, over to you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, this is a little bit short but very rich week, I think. Okay, so I'm hoping now that I have solved the problem. We will see. Share entire screen. Anyway. All right. Let's see how this goes. Okay. Give it 1 second here, I guess. Anyway. Okay. So this week, April 12th through the 18th, and it's not coming up. All right. I assume you guys are not seeing anything.
No.
Yeah, I know. See that? Come on, Dave. All right.
Very difficult days. Cut in some slack.
I don't know. All right. Shoot.
50 years at NASA, and now this.
Yeah, I know. We can put a man on the moon, and we can't. Well, okay. Now it said it was sharing the screen, and it's not doing anything.
No.
All right. Give me a second.
We can come back to you, Dave.
All right, give me one more chance, and then you can give up on me. All right, share. Let's share the screen. Share entire screen. All right. It looks very happy with this.
Houston, I think we don't have a problem.
There we go. Okay. All right. It's sort of now it's an irreproducible result, but all right. Let's see if it stays and doesn't disappear. This week in space exploration history. Okay, so we start off with a bang. This is, obviously, the big, one of the biggest days, April 12th, 1961, where Yuri Gagarin becomes the first human to go into space. There's not much that hasn't been said about this, so I don't have a lot of new things to tell you about this, but it was an amazing day. You can see the headlines. There's the Huntsville Times. Where Marshall Space Flight Center is, and the U.S. was, so close to actually getting someone into space. But even our first mission was a suborbital mission with Alan Shepard, and then they just went up and went into orbit, and they did the whole shebang. They didn't leave anything else for us to do.
All
right, so it's not just the PowerPoint. It's because I changed this to Adobe.
Right,
And,
something up with your machine.
And I
there.
also changed it to a full screen mode, and it doesn't seem to like anything I do.
Okay, should we come back to you?
Yep. Let me see if I can think of something else. All right, sorry.
Moving
You
on
didn't
then.
create any waves when you left NASA, did you? 'Cause, I mean,
Maybe.
they may
Well,
be, you don't know.
Let's not get into that.
Okay, so viewers, we're having a bit of a tough night tonight, but we will move on
Yeah.
because that's what we do. We're going to move on now. It's time for fanfare space numbers of the week. Regular feature where I give you some numbers relating to something to do with space, and you have to guess what the number refers to. So just let me set this up, and we will have a look. Okay, so space numbers of the week. That's not dead. Oh. Now mine's died. Hang on 1 second. Let's just set this up again. Hang on a second. Okay, here we go then. So, as I was trying to say, space numbers of the week. I'm going to give you some numbers relating to space, and you have to tell me what these numbers refer to. So, here we go. Okay, space numbers of the week. Your first number is... Go on. Not just you, Dave. We've got a general problem. Right, let me just try that again.
Oh dear.
Hey guys, don't try this at home. Okay.
It's that black hole again.
That's what it is.
It's the main
That old devil moon.
Right, let's try again. Okay, so space numbers of the week. Your first number is half a light day. So what does that refer to? Any guesses?
What's the number?
Oh yes, I think so.
What's that?
I think I might have that one.
Go on, tell us.
Is it to do with Voyager?
No.
No.
Oh.
How about New Horizons?
No. Viewers, any idea? Put in the chat if you know what this number represents. Half a light day. Any guesses?
Is that how long it takes for us to figure out our technology?
Get a presentation up.
Yeah.
Could be.
Or fix a toilet.
Yeah. Lou, I'm surprised at you. I thought you knew that half a light day is a measure of distance, not time.
Right.
Half a light day is, believe it or not, the diameter of the event horizon of TON 618, the most massive black hole ever found.
Well, of course. That was all our guess. We didn't think it was that.
Wow.
It was a bit obvious, wasn't it? So I'm going to go for it.
So TON 618 is the most massive black hole ever found. It has an estimated mass, and it's a very rough estimate because we're not quite sure, but somewhere around 66 billion solar masses. And if you were to traverse across its event horizon, it would take you a long time traveling at the speed of light. It would take half a light day, which makes it absolutely enormous. So if you do compare that with Voyager, of course, because Voyager's been going, just about 50 years, and it's traversed a light day.
Right.
So
In November.
yeah, that's right. So if you say it would take, with the speed that Voyager's traveling at, 25 years to traverse the diameter of the event horizon of this black hole. Just makes you realize what an enormous monster that black hole is. Okay, so your next number, 90%. 90%.
Number of astronauts who got sick in space?
No. Anybody got any guesses?
No.
Okay. So it's the share of the global launch market by space.
Wow.
2025.
Wow.
Yeah. So This is why SpaceX's IPO is going to be valued at $2 trillion, the biggest IPO ever this summer. And, they can back that up by saying, well, we've got 90% of the global launch market. So, our company's worth a lot of money. Of course, it's many, 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 many times their income. But that's going to be secondary, I think, because people will want a share of this company that has 90% of the global space launch market. Quite stunning, eh? Okay, next one. 3.8 million miles.
That's about how far I drive to Mickey Mount.
The next distance to the next toilet?
No. No.
Distance to the nearest star?
No.
That's what it is.
No.
It's got something to do with the star.
Oh.
Ooh.
Our star?
Our star. So how does
Is that the event horizon of a dwarf brown?
Is it the extent of the sun's influence?
That's a very good guess, Michael, but no.
Oh.
No, I'll tell you, 3.8 million miles. It's the distance from the sun, the Parker Solar Probe on its recent pass. So the
Stephen Hawking got it.
Parker Solar Probe recently made its 27th pass close to the sun, and it passed at a close distance of 3.8 million miles, which is very close indeed, and of course survived and lived to tell the tale. So amazing engineering on that spacecraft that it could withstand the heat of the sun from only 3.8 million miles from the surface of the sun. So I know 3.8 million miles is a long way in human terms, but cosmically speaking, not at all. Okay, next one, 3.9 meganewtons.
Meganewtons.
Yeah.
Thrust of the Saturn V?
Not the Saturn V.
The SLS?
Yes, you got it. It's the thrust generated by the SLS at liftoff, 3.9 meganewtons, which is quite a lot, really. Okay, 1 second to 1 million years.
Was that the estimated time until Betelgeuse becomes a red giant?
No.
Second to 1 million years.
Actually not. No. It's the Earth-Sun energy output equivalent. In other words, the sun outputs the same energy in 1 second that the total energy output of the Earth generates in a million years. So that is quite a thought, isn't it? So
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Well, that's the whole purpose of doing these, just to make you think of it. And 430 degrees Celsius is the next one.
That's usually the temperature of any of the cakes I bake.
Celsius.
Yeah, good man. You're
Celsius, Lou.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a temperature, but temperature of what? I'll tell you. This is the daytime temperature on Mercury.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Temperature on Mercury. Oh,
yeah.
well, never mind.
Daytime temperature on Mercury is 430 degrees Celsius. 82%. This is a bit obscure. I don't think anybody would get this.
Oh, this one's obscure. Oh, okay.
This is the hard one.
Okay, this is actually the percentage of surveyed people who think AI has reduced trust in the media. Why do I mention this? Because this week we had a classic example of AI being used for something really bad, because this image has been floating around social media, which was meant to be the Orion capsule after splashdown in the ocean, showing lots and lots of damage. And after investigation, it turns out that it's a completely AI generated.
Holy cripes. It looks so real.
It
Yeah,
does.
it looks very realistic.
That is the problem, and this is why 82% of people think that AI has reduced trust in what we see in the media, and I would certainly agree with them. And you know, I don't know why anybody would want to do something like this, apart from, you know, to discredit NASA and have a go at NASA. And I don't know what people's motivations are for doing this, but it just goes to show viewers that, you know, when you're looking at images on social media, you know, do check them, because there are, you know, social media is flooded by images like this that are completely complete fiction. So just be careful. Check everything. We didn't have to check everything. Once upon a time, not long ago, we saw a photograph and we could pretty much assume that it was genuine, but not anymore. So be careful with all the AI generated stuff out there. And talking of this sort of thing, I thought it would be nice to tell you what Americans have been saying about Project Artemis and going to the moon and everything to do with it, because there's been a
Dave, you and I should sign off right about now, I think.
I have a feeling, yeah.
No, this is Lou, don't worry. This is actually very encouraging news.
Oh, okay.
This was a survey done recently, according to Reuters, and Americans were asked questions about everything that's going on with going to the moon. 69% of them say they are excited about space exploration.
Yay.
80% hold a favorable view of NASA.
All right, then.
69% say returning humans to the moon is important.
Ooh.
And 62% believe human spaceflight is worth the cost. And just to tell you about the sample, it was 1,021 respondents with an error margin of ±3%. So I think this is really encouraging news that Americans are behind going back to the moon. And you know, this if you think about government programs in any country, ask people what they think about government programs. This is a really positive view of a government program.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So I think this is a nice note to finish the whole Artemis thing on, that Americans seem to be behind going back to the moon. And
you should send that to our Congress.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah,
good
and the White House, since
Well, forget the White House. I mean, never mind.
Yeah.
Congress.
I did read today that Donald Trump's latest move to slash NASA's budget by 47% in the next financial year. You remember he tried it last year and it got rejected. It looks like the same thing's going to happen, because the chairman of the committee that will basically decide has already said that this is not acceptable, and he wants NASA to maintain their budget for next year. So,
excellent.
That's good news.
Good.
That's good news. So, well, I won't say what I was going to say about Trump, but there you are. Okay, so there we are. So that's Space Numbers of the Week for you. Hope you enjoyed that. And what we're going to do now, do you want to give it another go, Dave?
Yep. I have another try. I'll try something
Have another try.
different. Try something completely different. Well, a little different.
Barry says 80% don't know what the moon is. Yeah.
I imagine.
You would be.
Someone mentioned
Barry,
flat
if
earthers.
you spend any time on social media, you'd be forgiven for thinking that. But anyway, you know, good, encouraging news, I think. Okay, let's try again, Dave.
I am trying. There we go. All right. I'm going to talk fast in case it disappears. So there's Yuri. There's Yuri Gagarin. All right. So next day, April 13th, 1970, is Apollo 13. Again, not a lot that hasn't been said or even movies made about this. So, not a lot to add to that, but I thought, it's just interesting to mark the day. And that final picture on the right of those parachutes coming down, because I remember that, and I'm sure a lot of you do. That was just one of the best things you could ever see, was those 3 parachutes opened and that thing drifting down into the ocean after all that. It was just an amazing event. And anyway, it was Discoverer 2. Okay, so this is pretty cool. This is the first spacecraft to ever actually return a reentry capsule, something designed to come in, and it's gone again. Oh well.
And
Oh no.
I have no idea what's going on. All right.
do you want to read them, Dave?
All right. Yes, I will. I will. You see down in the so the capsule actually returned, but because of a timer error, it dropped it off early, and it ended up landing in the Arctic regions rather than near Hawaii, where it was supposed to. And it was never found, although had the picture at the bottom was a picture of Rock Hudson actually recovering it in the in the movie Ice Station Zebra, which I mentioned once before. But anyway, that movie was actually based on this exact event, where the reentry capsule, which was just a test capsule and actually didn't have any film in it, but was erroneously dropped into the Arctic, and in the movie it has very important film on it, and the Soviets and the U.S. are racing to find the capsule, and it was a pretty cool movie. But just the idea that this was the very first time that someone, something had re-entered the Earth, on purpose. I mean, not just burned up in the atmosphere, but actually re-entered the Earth and survived. April 16th, 1946 was the first test launch of a German V2 rocket in the U.S. It went up to 5 miles in White Sands, New Mexico. I've talked about some of these, V2 rocket launches before, but this was actually April 16th was the first one. So 1946. So just 80 years ago was the first, which then led to, of course, a lot more sophisticated V2 launches, and then building their own, and then finally to the U.S. space program, really. April 17th was the launch.
Just before we move off that, just like to say, in our family, we have part of the tail fin of a V2.
Really?
Yeah, because where I lived in Southend-on-Sea in Essex, there's a boating lake there, and the V2 came down in the boating lake.
Right.
And his father, when he was young, went down with his father and retrieved some of the tail fin and some of the internal wiring from the V2.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite something.
It is.
Wow, that's amazing. All right. Sheesh. Okay, well, so April 17th, 1967 was the launch of Surveyor 3. It was the second U.S. lunar lander, but it was also, and it landed on April 19th, by the way. And then it also was the first and only spacecraft to actually be visited by humans after landing, because on Apollo 12, Pete Conrad and Alan Bean landed the Apollo 12 lunar module within walking distance of Surveyor 3, and then they walked over to it, and they brought back some pieces of it and took pictures of it. And the pieces are on display at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. I've seen them. They took part of the camera and they cut off part of one of the arms. They were interested to see what happened to something. It had been sitting on the moon for about a year and a half at that point, or two and a half years, I think, at that point. And they were interested to see what would happen. They found pitting and sort of the kind of things you might expect in the paint and on the surfaces there. And on April 18th, 2014, so 12 years ago, LADEE, the Lunar Atmosphere and Dust Environment Explorer, impacted the far side of the moon. A planned impact, but they did run out of fuel, and they had to ditch it. So they dumped it on the far side of the moon. And one thing that I missed, and now without the picture, well, maybe I can get you a picture real quick. Because what I didn't do last week, because I just I forgot to add it on there, and I had it all ready to go, was the largest sunspot ever recorded.
Oh, really?
And this was on April 8th, but in 1947, the largest sunspot group ever observed.
Wow.
18 billion square kilometers, 140 Earths could fit inside those sunspots, and I just thought that was worth seeing.
That's
even if it's going to disappear momentarily because of some unknown reason. But that's quite. I mean, that is amazing.
Very much a sunspot then.
Yeah, that's kind of seeing something like that would be a kind of a bucket list thing. I just think that would just be incredible to see a group of sunspots like that. But that was 1947. So anyway, and that's what I've got for this week. So thanks, and sorry
Thank
for the
you very much.
glitches.
And,
I've got some work to do, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Dave, and apologies, viewers, for the technical problems that Dave seems to be having this evening. We will, of course, be taking it up with him after the show and having a word in his shell.
Well,
goodbye, everybody. It was nice being on the show.
Just at a tangent there, when you're talking about things hitting the moon. Going back to Artemis, I know we're not going to talk about it anymore, but excuse me. With Artemis 2, when they went behind the full shadow, or they were in the full shadow of the moon, they used their eyes to look for flashes from meteorite strikes on the far side of the moon. Excuse me. And the thing is, they did count, they think, up to 6. They know 4 for definite, then there was a 5th. And they think there possibly was a 6th. Now, in the short time, really, relatively, that they were actually in the full darkness, doesn't that bode a little bit of concern for actually having accommodation on the actual on the moon's surface? Because if you remember, back in the Apollo days, we had ASLEP, the Apollo Surface Lunar
ALSEP, yeah.
ALSEP, yeah. Science packages that were put on the moon, which actually included seismometers to actually detect meteor strikes and things like that. And they were actually switched off in I think it was September 1977.
Yes, they turned them all off. Yeah,
they turned them all off, but they were detecting meteor strikes. But of course, that was on the what we call the near side of the moon. Well, if you're getting 6 strikes within that short amount of time on the far side of the moon, I mean, wouldn't that be of some concern? Shouldn't they? So with like we were talking about CLPS, shouldn't they be thinking about dumping a load of seismometers, seismometers on the moon?
Yeah, I would hope. Yeah, I would definitely hope
just to see whether or not there is possibly an issue. It was just a thought. It was just something that struck me when I was thinking about it.
They saw 4 with their own eyes within just a few minutes.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
and a flash means it's a pretty big one. That's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting hit by little stuff all the time, but that's a pretty big one. So yeah. Now, as far as seismometers go, the more you have, the more places you have a seismometer, the better it is for everything. I mean, you as far as timing and locating seismic events, either moonquakes or strikes, meteor strikes. I mean, you can pinpoint the location better the more seismometers you have. I know the seismic community wants to drop seismometers all over the moon and cover, networks. I mean, just like we have on Earth, because they would love that. But it is interesting, though, the far side, and I suppose just intuitively that would be more prone to being hit by larger meteor, just because the Earth's not protecting it. I mean, the Earth does act like a gravity well, sort of, to pull things in that might otherwise go on to hit the moon, and so it's maybe not surprising. That does seem like a lot of strikes, though, to me. Just
in such a short time.
You could tell the astronauts were surprised. They couldn't quite believe it themselves. Anyway, so thank you very much for that, Dave. We're going to move on now to Roger. It's time.
Hey.
Once again, for Roger's look at the night sky and the gallery. So take it away, Roger.
No, you just happened to.
Okay.
I was talking, and so I couldn't. Okay.
Right. So we've got. We're working our way through the second half of April now, and what we're working our way through later towards the weekend is a new moon. So. Things will be looking a lot better through this week. with no moon glow, although there probably won't be any skies to see with all the clouds that we've been having. But nevertheless, we've still got Jupiter dominating in the southwest, with Orion now almost setting, unfortunately. So that will be the winter constellations about done for this period of the year, and we've gradually coming up with the summer constellations coming up later on through the wee hours of the morning. But things are looking pretty good, with Leo and Virgo coming up through with all those galaxies to be studied and photographed. But during the wee hours of the morning, we've got Neptune, Mars, and Mercury coming up before sunrise, and preceding sunrise, we've also got Venus and Uranus, although Venus is looking quite good and interesting after sunset at for a few hours. So that's all well and good. Okay, so we've got it's a bit random, but there we are. We've got M51, which is up quite nicely at the present, with Ursa Major almost overhead. So that would be a good challenge, and we'll be seeing a picture of that later on in the gallery. And we've also got Eris, one of the dwarf planets, at opposition.
Wow.
It's a telescopic object, obviously, because it's not that big, although it is big in comparison to some of the other minor planets and up around that area. So could be a nice, interesting challenge if you were into that sort of thing. We've also got Comet C2025R3. It will be approaching perihelion this week, and it may be visible with binoculars, but unfortunately for us, it's not in a very good situation. And it's currently coming through the square Pegasus, but it will be visible. Josh Jory has managed to take a picture of it in the last few days, but it is quite low on the horizon when it does become visible, around about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then it's starting to get bright. But it will become more of a challenge as it does get lower and lower as the days go by. So unfortunately for us, the southern hemisphere people will be able to get a better opportunity once it's past perihelion. This is just a chart. As you can see, it is heading down towards Pisces there, and unfortunately it will be out of our view. But there is still a few more days of opportunity to see it if you're very keen on getting up in the wee hours of the morning from about 4 o'clock to see it. Okay, we've also got the Lyrid meteor showers beginning at the weekend, and that's thanks to Comet Thatcher C1861 G1, and we will hope to see some interesting objects of that in the following week. So maybe that might catch some people's eyes. It's roughly about 18 an hour, and there's been 2,700 years of records of it. So it has been spotted since 687 BC.
Wow.
So, yes. So I don't know whether that may be one of the earliest ever recorded sightings of a meteor shower, apart from comet. So be interesting fact to find out. So it's also International Dark Sky Week. So people have been asked all around everywhere to see if they can switch their lights off for a while at night to try and people to get to see what the night sky actually looks like without all that unnecessary light going back up into the night sky. So whether many people will actually do that is very doubtful, but the thought is there. So as we can see from here, this is what the sun's currently looking like. No huge sunspots. In fact, there's not many sunspots on there at all. And there are a little bit of activity on the prominences around the limb. But looking at the coronal holes, there's pretty big one in the northern half here coming round. So there might be some interesting activity coming towards us if anything comes out of there when it's facing towards the Earth. So watch this space. And here is our gallery. Don't blink, you'll miss it. We've only got one entry for this week, unfortunately, but all's well. And thank you, Jerry, for your image of M51.
Way.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's lovely.
Beautiful. So that's what we've got for this week.
Okay, thank you.
Think,
very much.
yes. Okay. So it's all these cloudy skies. It's just messing with our programs of getting out there and getting new images.
Yeah. But don't forget, if you would like to contribute to the viewers gallery, then simply attach an image to an email, one image per email, please, and mail it to gallery@spaceoddities.space. Don't forget, the Space Oddities website contains a gallery of all the readers' images, viewers' images. So if you'd like your own little gallery on the Space Oddities website, send them in to us. They'll appear here on a Tuesday, and you have your own gallery on the website. So there we are. Okay, well, we're going to move on now because it's that time of the evening again, where we don our aqualungs and dive into the murky waters of Einstein of the Week, our look at the lunacy that has been coming up on social media. Now, as you might guess, it's been a bit of an Artemis week for lunacy, and there's simply been too much to choose from. But to be honest with you, a lot of it is all the same old. We didn't go to the moon, NASA's fake, CGI, all the usual nonsense. But I've picked out a few examples that were particularly noteworthy, and let's have a look at those. So the first one, if we can see the moon, why didn't anyone see Artemis 2 going near the moon? According to ChatGPT, this is the difference in size between the moon and Artemis 2. We should be able to see Artemis Orion, at least with the most powerful telescope. So she asked ChatGPT to show a size comparison between the full SLS and Orion rocket and the moon. And this is what ChatGPT gave her.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Well done.
Yeah. So she didn't quite realise that, obviously, that it's just the tiny capsule, tiny bit on the top that goes to the moon. But even so,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, I think. So there you are, poor girl. I love her name as well. Autumn Hues, the hues of autumn. So
oh my God.
Yeah. So the moral of this story is, if you're going to get ChatGPT to create graphics that are meant to be factual, check them. But there we are. Okay, Candice Owens, extreme right-wing influencer, who's featured on the Einstein of the Week a few times. This is from last year, but I had to include this. Science has become a pagan faith. Yes, that's what I actually believe. If I don't get it from the Bible, and I can't observe it with my own eyes, I don't stand it as the truth. The origins of NASA are satanic. When the guys landed on the moon, it was fake and gay. You must come to terms with the fact that NASA and space missions have always been this fake and gay, and you need to learn the history of NASA, of the Apollo programs, which were occult and satanic. It was literally meant to be an anti-Christ movement meant to make people believe in man.
Yeah, she's really lost the plot, hasn't she?
Yeah, I mean, big time. But it's the last bit that I got really angry about. What's wrong with making people believe in man? That's what I want to know. That's what we should be aspiring to, for people to believe in each other. But there you are. So that's Candace Owens, and
but she's also mocking us Satan worshippers.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
It's not on, is it? That's a bit.
That's discrimination.
Satanist.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm sure Candice, bless her, will appear on Einstein of the Week again. On a similar note, NASA is just Satan minus T. That's why they say T minus when they blast off.
Oh,
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 okay.
what?
Boy.
Yep. Somebody actually posted that with the Satan NASA logo.
Who are these guys?
Well, yeah, good question. There we are. And I think this is the last one. This came up in a conversation about the JWST. Do they use telescopes up in space, or is it just a picture?
What?
Must have been living under a rock.
Yeah. So there we are. So that is Einstein of the week for this week. Hope you enjoyed those. And there we are. So moving on, finally this evening,
Hey.
we go over to Roger again for the
hey.
weekly constellation of the week. And what have you got for us?
It's a whopper.
It's a
Oh,
whopper.
Oh.
Oh, I say.
Yeah, it doesn't get any bigger than this, matron.
I wish it looked that bright in the sky there, Roger.
Yeah, well. Okay, so we're talking of Hydra.
What did I say about
Largest
using ChatGPT to create images?
It's slithering away.
Yes. Even that.
Oh, we have got, right, okay, so we've got, we're going to have a bit of a history session as well on the various other aspects of the constellation through other various places around the world. So as you can see, it does go all the way through. It's got about a dozen different neighboring constellations that go right down through into the southern hemisphere. So there are a couple of Messier objects down quite low there. As you can see, we've got M68 and M83 also in there at quite a low altitude. So William Herschel did quite a good job there. Or Messier, Charles Messier, sorry. Putting all these objects.
Get it right.
Yeah, get it right. I know. Anyway. So we've got the northern border, we've got it as Cancer and right down into Libra and Centaurus. And of course, Centaurus is well down below where we can physically see. So great big long constellation. So what have we got from history, from the Babylonians to the Greeks? Okay. So the Babylonians, known as Mildredgrudmus, a celestial serpent. So they've got the same sort of theme. And the Greeks was a Hydra slain by Hercules. So everything is still based on the same type of animal through the different types of religions and history of that constellation. So, but we've also managed to get the tail of the Chronocop, which is also down through some of the neighboring constellations as well. So there we go. So we'll move on from that. Okay. So how do we find it? Right. So it's only got one star brighter than magnitude 3. A great for the actual constellation, which is quite surprising for the largest constellation. I thought they might have picked out some brighter ones than that to make it out. And it's usually best during April. So it's currently at its best as we look at the skies at this moment. So the brightest star is Alphard, which is just under magnitude 2, is 177 light years away, and is an orange giant, and it means the solitary one.
Oh,
Alphard. Yeah. Beta Hydrae goes down to magnitude 4.3 and is a blue-white star 365 light years away, and Gamma Hydra is 132 light years distant. So they're not in a sort of in the region there. So okay, what's going on? Right. So we do have a couple of Messier objects. Messier 48, which is an open cluster, visible to the naked eye from a truly dark site. So not really anywhere from our locations. And then we've got the southern pinwheel, which is M83, and is one of the closest and brightest barred spirals.
Oh.
And then in the NGC catalogue, we've got 3242, which is the ghost of Jupiter. which is a planetary nebula at magnitude 7.5.
Oh.
So it's, I don't think I recall seeing that one myself, but it might come up at some point. So we've got so we go from Alpha, which is quite a big, bright orangey star, to a galaxy M83, which is 15 million light years away in the constellation. So we have a bit of a variety there. So what do we actually see? So we've got visibility down to 35 degrees, just about visible, possibly from the northern hemisphere. But obviously, southern hemisphere will get the better selection of those constellation stars as well. So a bit of constellation for everybody. So we've now know that it's the biggest of all the 88 constellations that we know. They've got various stories all about this as a serpent in lots of different parts of the world, and we do have some objects all the way through there, obviously, because it covers such a big area. It's bound to have a lot of other different things that people would like to study. So that's a little brief history of Hydra.
Thank you very much, Roger. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So there we are.
Yeah.
So draw things to a close for this evening. I'd like to thank obviously Daz and Roger and Dave and Michael and the Invisible Lou. And we'd like to thank you, the viewers, first and foremost, for being with us this evening. Apologise for the slight technical glitches. We had no, not Dave's fault. He's obviously got computer problems, which we also, of course, from time to time. So there we are. Not much you can do. We will return, first of all, on Thursday for this week's Space Weekly News. If you haven't caught up with that yet, we're doing a separate news program on a Thursday as a video, not as a live stream. So we'll be publishing another Space Weekly News, just giving you some of the latest news on Thursday. We hope you tune into that each Thursday. And beyond that, we will see you again at this time of 8 o'clock UK time next Tuesday on Space Oddities, when we'll move away from Artemis and bring you some even more exciting stuff if you can stand the excitement. So we'd like to thank you very much for being here. Have a fantastic week, everybody out there. Stay safe, look after each other, and thank you for your continued support of Space Oddities. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. So from all of us at Space Oddities and Lou, a very good evening.